We are born into this life with a goal to pursue what makes us happy. We aren't conditioned, we have no responsibilities, we are simply free. We say what we think, we dress not to impress. We are happy to make friends with complete strangers, no matter race or religion. But as time goes on, inevitably our mind starts forming beliefs. It starts programming itself, and we find it hard to be ourselves. And only if we knew how to be ourselves, wouldn't it be so much easier? Or would it? When you're by yourself, you are yourself. But when it comes to interacting with people, suddenly you struggle to be yourself. I am not what I think I am. I am not what you think I am. I am what I think you think I am. If you struggle to be yourself, you have placed a high importance on other people's opinions of you. Because ultimately, you want to be accepted, so you seek validation, approval, and love from others. But the way you go about it doesn't serve you, because it inhibits you from expressing your real self due to the fear of people disagreeing with you, being offended by you, or just not liking you. So if the real question is, who do I want to be, then what's the answer? Part 1 is to identify what happened to you for you to value other people's opinions of yourself so much. For me, it was the fact that when I was growing up, I had a hard time fitting in, and it made me feel not worthy enough, it made me feel insufficient and just not good enough. And I noticed as I grew up, I started to do things to get people to think of me a certain way. I'd do things that I thought were cool, so people would think I was cool. And to be honest, I still notice myself doing them to this day, but I now have the awareness. And that's the difference, because once you have the awareness, you have the power to change it. It all starts with awareness. So I'd encourage you to write down why you think you value other people's opinions so much. Because the more we can understand something, the less power it can have over us. From there, you can identify what makes you not feel like yourself. Sometimes this can be certain scenarios or people, but usually it has to do with something from within. Because if you're blaming other people for the way they make you feel, it's usually a reflection of your own insecurity. Some other examples could include you may feel like you're indebted to someone because they give you something. And so you alter the way you act because you don't want to annoy or anger these people and lose what they give you. Another example could be you just want to fit in, so you alter the way you act. And that's fine. There's always going to be different versions of ourselves, but the problem begins when these different versions are dictated by what you think other people will think of you. We are born into this life with a goal to pursue what makes us happy. And we believe that being ourselves is going to make us happy. But instead of trying to be ourselves so we can be happy, why not be happy so we can be ourselves? And my answer to a very complicated question is simple. Do what makes you and others happy. When you only do what makes you happy, you run the risk of making others unhappy and getting the feedback about that. When someone tells you they don't like spending time with you, you'll come back to the question, how do I be myself? At the same time, if you try to please everyone, you'll also come back to that question because it's near impossible to please everyone. So it's about navigating between the pendulum of pleasing everyone and not caring about anyone and only caring about yourself. And my answer to how to navigate between the pendulum is just to take each scenario as they come. Let's use the example of you might like to talk a lot, but you understand that other people like to talk too. So ask yourself, in that situation, what is more important to me? Me speaking or giving the other person an opportunity to speak? Because I tell you, from my life experience, there's something to be said about putting others before yourself. And you truly learn so much, so many things that you never thought were even possible when you do act in a less selfish way. And remember, sometimes saying no is actually helping the other person. So in order for you to know who you want to be, first you must know who you are. And a great way to know who you are is by asking yourself, what are my values? Because your values will dictate the way you live your life. Let's use the example of the value of honesty. And you're in a situation where someone asks you a question and you can't think of the answer to that question, so you'd rather lie than let this person assume something of you that might be inaccurate. The first problem with this is usually what you think the other person is thinking of you is not right. This has been proven many times. People always make assumptions of what the other person is thinking, and it's usually wrong. Number two is that you've chosen the value of honesty, and you've chosen your values based on many life experiences. So this will cause you inner conflict when you go against your values. And thirdly, when you lie, you aren't being true to who you are, which will again get you to come back to the question, who am I? The best thing to do in this scenario is just tell the truth and not care what other people think of you. Easier said than done, I know. But what this will do is build confidence in yourself. So then when you go into other scenarios, you'll be able to express yourself a lot easier because you won't be thinking about what other people are thinking of you. Now, this is just one example of how important values are. So I'd encourage you to get clear on what your values are. The second part of understanding who you are is to understand your emotions, your thoughts, and your actions. Why we do what we do. Because the more you can understand yourself, the more confidence you have. All confidence is experience and feedback. Think about someone you know that finds it easy to be themselves. They find it easy because they've probably been in a lot of scenarios with people where, number one, that's experience, being in a lot of scenarios with people. But number two is because they've gotten feedback from people. People like them. I guarantee the person that finds it easy to be themselves usually has friends and usually gets along with people. So what can you do to understand more about your emotions, your thoughts, and your actions? Number one is journaling. Number two is seeing a psychologist. Number three is even voice recordings. You can voice record after scenarios where you're driving home from something, get clear on your thoughts. Feel your emotions is a great one. A lot of people try to hide away from emotions. Feel it. Literally just accept it. Like if you're feeling sad, it's okay to feel sad. In life, we're going to feel an array of emotions. And our society is set up into trying to always make us feel better, feel good all the time. But part of being a human is feeling these array of emotions. And sometimes it's not bad or good. Like feeling sadness is not necessarily bad. So understanding your emotions in a quick summary. I could go into a whole nother video on just how to feel your emotions, but that's a good start. Is just to accept them and feel them, no matter what emotion it is. Number two, your thoughts. Journaling, voice recording, your thoughts and your actions. Just reflecting on your actions, because your actions are usually dictated from your thoughts and your emotions. So just understanding more about this. The first step is simply just awareness. Being aware of why you do what you do. Why? That's always a great question. Why did I do that? Furthering that, a lot of people always try to find the solution before asking themselves why I have the problem in the first place. For example, people that want to be more positive in life. You can find the solution by first asking yourself why I have these negative thoughts. Now, at the same time, be careful of the hamster wheel of self-development. This is basically a constant stress of trying to become a better version of yourself. I encourage you to accept who you are in this present moment, because in an hour, in a day, or even in a month, you aren't going to change that much. Change takes time. And if you can't accept who you are now, then you'll be constantly chasing your tail and you'll never be truly satisfied and happy with who you are. Because who you are is right now. Life is right now. It's not the future, it's not the past. So in order for you to be happy, you need to accept who you are in this present moment. Even when you know who you want to be, it's still sometimes hard to express that. That's why I encourage anyone who struggles to be themselves to either do a communication skills course like Toastmasters or learn the skill of humor. But whenever you are trying to become a different person or become a better version of yourself, I encourage you to ask yourself, is this who I truly want to be? Or is it society and my conditioning having this impact on me? It's okay to do things for validation as long as it's not the overriding or only reason you're doing it for. For example, let's say you grew up and you never had a girlfriend growing up and you got teased about it. Now you want to prove to everyone that they're wrong by dating every girl you see. Now this is usually your ego speaking, okay, and your conditioning. Because if you can't find another reason for wanting to date and meet new people, then you're going to struggle to do that thing. You're going to have conflict, inner conflict within yourself. And it's going to be for the wrong reasons. But regardless of who you are and who you choose to be, there will be a cost. Because remember, you can't please everyone. But that's where learning the skill of communication or the skill of humor can come in handy, because it can help you to navigate these situations in which people don't like you. At the same time, be careful of self-development, because as the name implies, it's all about yourself. And people can get caught up in being selfish with self-development. I want to finish this video up with some exercises and action steps that you can take. But before I do, I want to touch on a few points. And point number one is that there are going to be days that you don't feel like yourself. And you need to accept that and be all right with not being all right. Now, there are things you can do in order for you to minimize the days where you don't feel like yourself, like cutting out things that don't make you feel like yourself, maybe stimulants, maybe drugs, maybe it's even negative people. You can also work on not just your physical health, but your mental, spiritual, and emotional health too. Number two, be aware of your expectations of yourself. Expectations can lead to disappointment. Instead, set intentions for who you want to be and meet yourself where you're at. For example, if I say to myself that I want to be the most confident person in the world tomorrow, when I'm not very confident, it's going to be quite unrealistic, and when tomorrow comes and I don't achieve that, there's going to be quite a lot of disappointment. So meet yourself where you're at. I'm not saying that you can't set high goals. Set high goals for yourself, but meet yourself where you're at. Be realistic with your intentions, but always aim high. And take the pressure off yourself by setting intentions, because intentions are what you intend to do, but you are able to accept it if it doesn't come to fruition. Number three, realize that most people are thinking about what you're thinking about them. This can take a lot of pressure off people who overanalyze and overthink situations. Remember that recording what you think is another great way to deal with overthinking and overanalyzing. Just the voice recorder on your phone. And number four is, just because someone is right doesn't mean that you're wrong. Have confidence in yourself. There's many ways to skin a cat, okay? And just because one person has one belief doesn't necessarily mean that yours is wrong. Okay, and to finish it with the action points and the exercises that you can do. Number one is to answer the questions that I asked you in this video, because remember, the more we can understand something, the less power it can have over us. Number two is I want you to pick just one point, one thing that really stood out to you, and I want you to focus on that until you feel like you can move on to something else. Because there's a famous quote from Bruce Lee, I'm pretty sure it was Bruce Lee. He said, it was along the lines of, would you rather practice 100 punches once or one punch 100 times? Okay, same principle applies with this. If you focus on too many things, you're going to get overwhelmed and you're probably not going to get anywhere. Focus on the one thing that really stood out to you, that you think would really help you not only be yourself, but become the better version of yourself. And lastly, I would encourage you to re-watch this, because when you re-watch it, it not only reaffirms the points to you, it's not only revision, but you'll most likely pick up on things that you didn't hear or forgot about watching it the first time around. Okay? Spaced repetition too. That's the best way, in my opinion, to long-term memory, is by revising what you've learnt, because we forget a huge percentage of things as soon as we finish watching it. Okay, so if you can revise this in an hour, in a day, in a month, then you're pretty well set up to becoming the better version of yourself and finding it a lot easier to be yourself.